Well, today marks a milestone in New Orleans broadcasting, the 100th anniversary of WWL Radio.
It's hard to imagine, but we here at Channel 4 share roots and a partnership with that station and its award-winning news department.
Well, tonight in part 2 of our special report, Meg Ferris revisits some of the historic stories that we've covered together.
WWL AM radio was given authority to do what only a few stations across the country could do, broadcast at 50,000 clear watts, as the only station in America at 870 on the dial.
87 WWL.
That meant WWL could be heard across most of the U.S., and in the early 60s, more importantly, heard in another critical country. In the midst of the Cuban Missile Crisis, JFK used the power of WWL AM to speak to the Cuban people.
For its performance during the Cuban crisis of October-November 1962. This station voluntarily canceled its own programs and instead, from dusk till dawn, during this period, relayed programs of the Voice of America to Cuba.
After entertaining people for decades from the Roosevelt Blue Room, WWL AM radio began evolving and used that reach to become a leader in the news talk format.
When I got here, we had the largest radio news staff in the Gulf South. We had 18 people. 18 people, that's you know, of course today that's unheard of, but we were right there next to TV, and that was a great thing. Yep.
Of all the stories Walt Pierce covered in his 17 years as a reporter, then news director, the most memorable was the 1982 crash of Flight 759 in Kenner.
It was something I'd never experienced before, and I'd been to quite a few breaking news, tragic type of situations, but that was quite an event.
He and WWL TV newsman Norman Robinson were among the first on the devastating scene. And that kind of newsroom sharing and cooperation between WWL Radio and WWL TV has gone on for decades. Many well-known TV reporters, producers, and managers in the New Orleans market got their start on WWL Radio, and so did sports announcers like Hap Glotty.
He would come to me and go, sweetie, could you photo this for me? He didn't know how to use a copy machine.
I'm Frank Davis for Channel 4 Eyewitness News, and yeah, you're right. This is Naturally Known.
And so did beloved personalities. One was Frank Davis.
He convinced them to get a Winnebago, and we went everywhere, every festival, every golf tournament, every fishing tournament. Frank was live from there. Chef Paul Prudhomme used to do a cooking show on radio.
One of the most popular TV journalists and anchors in the country, Angela Hill, remembers filling in one time for the 1970s top-rated icon, Bob Ruby.
Who calls in? My first boyfriend in the 7th grade calling offshore working on an oil rig. Now, how did that happen? He says, I'm listening to you. And then I realized this is mammoth.
She remembers the star-studded guests over the years.
And someone said, Barry Manilow is in radio. I was like a child. I bolted up the stairs. Such a charming, kind person. Shook my hand. I went back down to the newsroom and said, I'm never washing this hand.
And after her TV career, Angela hosted her own talk radio show. So did former WWL TV anchor Garland Robinette.
All kind of goddamn, excuse my French, everybody in America, but I am pissed.
In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, Garland's interview with then Mayor Ray Nagin was picked up by countless news agencies across the country, making clear the depth of the disaster.
And it's that moment when Ray says, people are dying, man, people are dying. And he and Garland just had, I think, one of the biggest moments in the history of radio on the air. And that one call moved the president to come here and rescue our city.
He really became the voice of the city. Why? Because 50,000 watts.
And I went to the studio, and I just put my arms around Garland because he broke down and cried. He was a hero. He was a hero that led to the recovery.
WWL First News.
WWL Radio News Director Dave Cohen was among the first to broadcast the levee and canal walls breaking.
I was begging and pleading. You know, we had gone from just being journalists presenting the news to really being advocates for the people of New Orleans and telling them, get on the high rises, get on the elevated roadways, get out of your homes now, because in a matter of hours, you won't be able to.
We're stuck, and one of the babies is running a high fever.
To this very day, he wonders if that Holly Grove mother with a baby and a toddler made it through. Because she couldn't get through to 911, she called Dave. He talked her into getting on her rooftop.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that, and also we've got some other people to talk about.
But from those life-changing days to the everyday, WWL is still here, despite some predictions.
When TV first came out, people were saying radio's dead. It didn't die. MTV went on the air August 1st, 1981, and people were saying, well, nobody's going to listen to the radio if they can see music and videos. Well, that didn't happen.
And Scoot, now in the business for half of WWL Radio's 100 years, predicts the power of that 50,000 clear-watt channel, combined with one-on-one relationships listeners have with radio, means WWL AM is here to stay. Meg Farris, Eyewitness News.